The most disappointing season in Suns franchise history has finally come to its end, resulting in a first-round playoff sweep at the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm Gerald Bourguet, and this is Solar Flares. We heard from Frank Vogel, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant after tonight's Game 4 loss to Minnesota. It was a much more hard-fought loss for the Suns than the first 3 games of the series, which was good to see. Devin Booker obviously had his best game of the series, finishing with 49 points, which is a playoff career high for Book, and hopefully squashes some of the elimination Book narratives for the time being. But it does beg the question, what changed and why didn't the Suns show more fight in the series? I asked Devin Booker that, and here's what he had to say.
I think pride was on the line, but everybody's response is that it should have been from the start, and I completely agree.
Now, obviously, when you lose a playoff series in this fashion where you get swept and just dominated for the most part, there's going to be questions about what comes next. There was an article from The Athletic about how the Suns might consider a coaching change. That'll be interesting to keep tabs on here. It did feel like there was a disconnect somewhere in the locker room in terms of guys wanting to win and be on the same page about that, but not quite being on the same page about how they would get there. Frank Vogel has taken a lot of heat, and so I asked him about the season as a whole and why he felt like the Suns didn't reach their peak in the end. Here's what he had to say in his direct message to Suns fans.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's no worse professional feeling in the world than getting swept in the NBA playoffs. I've never been a part of it. I feel pretty low right now. I want to speak to our fans directly and say, I share your passion. I'm as disappointed as y'all are. Okay, I'll share that with you all. But we got beat by a better team this year, and we put this team together with the mindset that we have a 3 to 5 year window. That every year we're going to have a chance to have a team that has the firepower to compete for it. But this league is loaded with firepower. We got a talented group. So do the Timberwolves. So do every team in the top 10 teams in the Western Conference. They're loaded with talent as well. So we got to evaluate and figure out ways we can get better, and just process this tough series loss.
Now, you may have noticed Frank Vogel mentioned that 3 to 5 year window. I think that's a little bit generous on his part, but it was interesting that the theme of continuity and building seemed to be prevalent in all 3 post-game pressers. We heard Booker and KD and Vogel all talk about that, kind of under the impression that a lot of this team is going to be back for next year. Kevin Durant mentioning that guys need to be in the gym together and get together and build together in that way. It was interesting to hear. Whether a coaching change happens or not remains to be seen. But for the most part, they did kind of sound like they were under the impression that they were going to have continuity on their side next year. And that's an important thing for a lot of teams. Here's what Kevin Durant had to say about the importance of continuity.
Yeah, continuity is important. All the great teams in the league thus far has been together for 2-3 years. Minnesota's, Denver's, Boston's, the Lakers, OKC's, like a lot of teams have been together for a few years, so I'm looking forward to building.
Again, it'll be interesting to see if Vogel survives a first-round sweep in what was supposed to be a season spent contending for titles. But Book, on his part, didn't back down from the fact that he needs to be better. Here's what he had to say about the Suns' leadership and how they need to improve.
Hopefully everybody's feeling the same type of hurt, and it has to be fixed. I have to be better. Kevin has to be better. Brad has to be better. Coach has to be better. If we're the leaders of the team, we can't be out there unprepared.
And finally, after a season like this that ends in such disappointing fashion, when you look back on it and how great Kevin Durant was this season and how many games he played this season, it was his healthiest year since his Achilles injury a couple years ago. It's worth asking the question how much he has left in the tank and how motivated he still is, and whether a first-round sweep can still motivate a player who's accomplished so much in their career. So I asked him about that level of motivation, and he had a terrific response.
For me? Individually? I live and breathe this shit, bro. Like, I have nothing else but, at this point in my life, I got a lot of shit going on outside of basketball, but what I'm mainly focused on is ball, bro. So, yeah, I got motivation. I love to play. I'm going to come back next year, ready to hoop, So, yeah, I don't think you should question that.
The Suns team has a lot of questions to answer, and it's not guaranteed that everyone will still be here next season. but it's definitely something to keep an eye on after the most disappointing season in franchise history has come to an end. For more, keep it here on PHNX Sports.